Hello there. Welcome to Art Talks. My name is Laura Rodriguez, and I remind you that this is a project from the Art and Science Center at ITMO University. Today's interview is with Daria Parkhomenko. She is the director of Laboratoria Art and Science based in Moscow. She's a curator specialized in the art and science interactions, and she created the model of interdisciplinary platforms practices uniting exhibition, discussion, and educational projects. Personally, I consider her a great mentor and I'm very enthusiastic to having her here and listen about her journey through science art. So, without more delay, let's start. Stay tuned. Daria, thank you for giving us a little bit of your time. And let me start with a simple question. Now everyone is at home and the work moved to our living room. So how are you doing? How is working from home for you?
Actually, I find myself in very interesting thoughts. So I think quarantine is influencing quite well on me. That it's like we are not like squirrels in the circles running and doing something. It's much more time for reflection and much more time for really working with our deep thoughts, deep wishes, energy, and even the body. Honestly, really, it's a big opportunity to reflect on what we want, really.
Okay, that's very interesting because a lot of others are actually suffering the opposite, like they don't know what to do when there is some kind of depression or anxiety. So it's good that you are focusing your work.
I have a lot of what to do. You can't believe it. I mean, I'm doing a lot of sports. I'm cooking 3 times per day, cleaning all this cooking. I'm doing next show's concept. So I'm reading and discussing it with artists and core curators. And with my team, we are doing new website. It's quite a lot of work, very intensive. But I would say much less stress than usually.
That's nice to hear then. Okay, so I'm always interested in knowing more about the background and story behind big personalities of science art. So, how was your journey to become the director or Laboratoria Science Art Spaces?
For me, everything started from the childhood. And it was very similar times to what we have now. I mean, not a global quarantine. It was a very small quarantines in the kindergarten where I was going. And in this kindergarten, so actually when this happens, parents need to leave their kids at home. But my both parents were working very intensively. So that was a bad luck and good luck for me that time. So they took me with them to their jobs. And my father took him to his lab, and my mom to the Ostankina Tower. She's a journalist, and my father is a scientist. So I was around 4, 5, 6 years old, that period. And, it's influenced me really very strong. So what I saw in the lab of my father, it's big machines of unusual shapes where they started new materials. Also people in the white robes and also an atmosphere of also their vocabulary. Everything was so unusual. It was like for a kid, like a fairy tale that I suddenly found myself. These went to my subconscious. And when I was thinking what I want to do in my life, I was lucky to work in the foundation where they gave me a lot of freedom to decide on the project. And I started their science art project. I had my master diploma where I was already writing so what is the perspectives and problems of science art, and including science art in the world art context. So all this, what I chose, this path was somehow unconsciously already, chosen. So this all what I started to do with the lab was somehow decided in my childhood. So all this was to bring artists and sciences together and to show artists how fantastic can be in the labs, to unite, these visions of feelings and artistic research and scientific research. And then if you would ask practically how I did my lab, a lot of coincidence and some luck. I was a young curator. I was that time 23 years old, and it was a biennale of a young art. So they gave me a very beautiful space to exhibit a show of artists and scientists. I was already doing the new productions in collaborations with scientists. And accidentally, they told me that, no, your space is canceled. You need to find another space. You need to invent your own. And one lady curator told me that, Daria, you would never find a really good space. You never will find such a lot of institutional support for your projects. You need to do, if it's really your passion, you need to do it yourself. So I was looking for some space, any space where can I show the artists who are really believing in me so much. It's also such a time where you are young and you feel so strong. You feel like you can do everything. I was very lucky to find a space in the scientific institute, which they gave me not only for one exhibition. They told me, so, okay, you can take it for long time and do your programs because we are interested in it. And with this chain of events, of some of the stories, or a bad luck that MoMA took their space back and I didn't have a space, but they gave me this support of community and some money, and I found a new space, and with the artists we did a renovation of that empty garden and empty space of a research institute. So that was a beginning. So how I founded a lab. And for many years, by now it's a baby project, my baby project, an institution which I'm working all the time.
And recently you opened like a second chapter of these Laboratoria Art and Science spaces in Tritikov Gallery, right?
Yes, yeah.
Can you tell us more about it?
Yeah, of course. Yeah, this we should open this June, but as due to pandemic in all institutions in the world, so it's all postponed, and so our doors of a new space we hope really to open in September, 28th of September, really end of September, with the first exhibition, May the Other Live in Me. And Tretyakov Gallery invited me to open a permanent space of a lab, which I'm very proud that they invited. And it's, of course, a new chapter and a new step for science art in Russia also. It means that now such a traditional museum as a Tretyakov Gallery, so they want to have some project with interdisciplinary projects. And we have our program for several years already. We work on exhibitions and many educational projects inside it.
Right, and I remember one of these collaborations and projects. It was an impressive work. It was a neuro-robotic installation of Borgi and Vess. There was these two robots talking to each other. Let's listen a little bit of their conversation. I really want to encourage our public to look for this artwork. There is a video on internet where you can see how the robots look like and how they interact, and the conversation evolves every time. So for now, I want to ask you how this collaboration was made and what was your role in this project?
Yeah, it's one of the really very high-tech projects even now. After we showed in 2018, it started in 2016, and still by now it's a very high-tech installation. But I would rather start from the end and tell to everyone that it's not just an art piece, it's a constantly evolving system. So it means that the Borg best still learning. This project is based on a technology of machine learning, and it's two robots. Actually, they look like surgical lamps, but inside they're really two robots who receive information. They read news from the internet, and then they discuss them. They discuss by their own free will. I mean, it is not programmed, so they can discuss what is happening now with pandemic and give their own reflections on it. And artists, he did the idea. He invented all this idea in collaboration with Russian scientists. So how it all came to life. In 2016, I invited Thomas Forstein to come to Moscow to get to know Russian scientists who work with AI. It was from Kurchatov Institute, Mikhail Burtsov, Robotic Labs, Valery Karpov. So Thomas, very unique artist, I would say. He was applying to all what we showed to him with such an interest and deep involvement. So for 5 days we were showing labs, and after a month he sent us a concept fully included all technologies what we showed to him, and also a Russian context. So he took a Dostoevsky novel Bessie, Demons, as a core of the project. So the lamps, these creatures, Borg and Bess, they speak not only in Russian language, they speak in the language of 19th century. So all their thoughts are translated to the language of Dostoevsky. So this machine learning system was taught all texts, all novels by Dostoevsky. All these projects got ready only in 2 years. So it means that from the beginning of idea, it was a long process of technological, building, improvement, a lot of stuff. Of course, if we would have more financial support, 2 years could become 1 year. But still, it's a long project. It's a long-term project in the way of deliberating the concept. Also, for me, very important in the way that artist was not only the only one who got an idea, but also scientists, like deep learning researchers. They could train their unusual models of speech servers and all these language models. They can test and experiment. So for them, the project is not only, one more project where they can make robotic voices, but it's a really different type of experiment. So which is important, I think, for science art. It's like both, art and science together.
Right. I agree with what you just described. Sometimes it's not that easy. So what can you recommend to us as key points for a successful collaboration between art and science, artists and scientists?
I would say the most important to make art-science collaboration is very human. It's really like a chemistry. It needs to be trust and needs to be wish from both sides to open to something new, to build something together. And for me as a curator, it's always a challenge to make this situation in that way that artist is opening and willing to use these technologies, this very technology we are showing, to get him so interested in the research. And on the other side, also with the scientist, that he understands that artist is someone, who is coming to build something totally new, but not visualizing. It's not like design or visualization of his or her own research, as unfortunately often they think like in this way. So it's really, making this atmosphere and situation of a total new way, prizing new ideas, should be a special situation and a mood for this. And the second is, of course, what we are trying also to do is the production, because when we have already a genius idea and a big idea, we always need to realize it in a physical matter, in a physical way. And here, sometimes we have some limitations of the technology, and we often ask engineers to produce something totally new for artistic purposes. And this is also very important for artists to be really here without a compromise, and to experiment, to think how he can realize it.
Thank you. I think that it will help us to understand better how to make these collaborations. And well, from the very beginning, you start in the topic of art and science, but you might compare also the difference between exhibiting art and science projects or classical art. So, what are the challenges for art and science exhibition that you have faced?
Of course, it's a lot of difference. And first of all, if we start from the very simple things, it's of course technical things. So we need usually some special technical requirements. Light, it's about hanging, and our art is always, it can be like semi-living and like Borgibes, moving all the time, speaking. Bio-art projects, they can need some special temperature or light. And most important, I would say that our art doesn't live for very long. It's very difficult to maintain it for a long period. So it means that we're building it, we're investing so much time and resources, and then we need to think how to make a documentation of all these processes, how to leave the formula of this art to repeat it again. And I would say that for artists and for artists and for curator, both documenting is very important for what we do. I mean, not only the result, but also the process of creating these projects.
Right, and sometimes the documentation even plays a role in the final product. But well, it depends on the artist and the curator. And that leads me to my next question. Who do you think are the curators of the future?
This depends of what will be the art of the future. What do you think? It depends. The curator also will reflect to what art of the future. If we say that in future we will have more art with participatory processes where public is taking part, I mean not interactive art, but participatory art, which takes a lot of involvement of people, of audience. So like we take bioinformation of people, we understand, for example, their heartbeat, pulse, temperature, hormone levels, all these processes. It can be like this. So I would say that in general, if we say the curator of the future, of course, needs to think this holistic viewpoint, what I'm building in my lab. So it means not only thinking of these very art objects, but thinking of the whole situation and the whole strategy artist is working, or also creating not only exhibitions, but creating processes, creating these unique situations. And I would say this is very important, besides, of course, knowing art history and, of course, knowing the whole context. I would say it's really important to have this skill to be an totally multidisciplinary specialist. So a curator should be so brave not to afraid to go to quantum laboratories or to genetic labs and understand what scientists are doing there, get interested and bring their artists. And then in the context of museum, unite all these objects. Also, what I noticed from recent exhibitions I visited, sometimes people who make exhibition about ecology or mysticism or whatever, they take only art objects, but they don't invite specialists from the field on the topic they are talking about. And I think this is a big mistake. So it means that the curator really need to open all these borders and making even exhibitions on the topic of climate change, invite a specialist of that field, not only artists and philosophers, but to be really, I think, experimenting on frontier, someone like this.
I get very inspired, and thank you for sharing all of this from your personal experience. I see like the full circle, because you start sharing like your process and experience, how you united this, and now you are fostering that with your institution. You are fostering the process. So I really like how kids, teenagers, or adults that attend your events can get your experience that inspire you to do all the things you're doing. Thank you. It has been very inspirational.
Thank you, Laura.
And finally, my last question, can you tell us a little bit more about the relation curator-artist, and how do you personally approach with the artists that you collaborate with?
Actually, I had a chance to feel 2 times in my life by now as an artist. So it was an exhibition made by Antonio Gelza, a curator in Excel Gallery in Moscow, in Vinzavod. And he invited all curators to bring their artworks, to create new artworks, and to bring them to the gallery. Only curators. And the artwork needs to talk about who you are and what is your way of seeing the world, like your picture of the world. And that was a very serious shift in my mind to feel in a totally different role, position. And it was in 2014. I was surprised how I felt fragile as an artist, because I felt, that everyone will see my artwork and it's so intimate about me. And I was feeling really, I would say that curator also feels quite open to people because all his thoughts are like visible, but artists even more, like 10 times more. And when I was meeting with a curator that time, who was curating me, Antonio, he was very gentleman, and really asking how I want to make an art piece. It was mine was a kinetic installation about artificial sun, and he was asking me so many questions and details, and how he can support my production, and how he can support. It was totally new for my mind, because usually I ask these questions, but from this another point of view, I felt so much importance of this care. Curator initially is the root of curator, care is to take care. Curator means person who really taking care of an artist. First of all, I thought that it's so important that never really to think that it's too much of a care for artists. So to be very attentive to all details, and really like even a tiny lamp need to blink here or stay still, or how it should be, the whole installation. It means a lot. So that experience gave me this feeling of, giving a lot to artists and, taking even more care of what is happening. And I mentioned already that it's also important, I think, also not to take only artworks, but to understand how artist is working, the strategy of the artist, how he works. So why he works in this very direction, using these techniques or there, and bringing him in my way. So curator really bringing artists to new situations, giving him new possibilities. But of course, in my role, in my model of curating, it's a lot of participation together with the artist. So I would say that sometimes I feel a little bit, also included in the art process. So when we are together with the scientists and taking decisions where to go, how to realize, so I feel a lot of co-author, I would say, which some artists don't like, and it's some even some community of artists should say that curators should not influence at all on an art piece. But in science art, it's really such a complicated pieces we create, and it's more a collaborative thing, and many people really take part and influence on the work. And also in my lab we work a lot on methodology and thinking, on what situation or what type of a science or what even psychological type of people, participants, what model we should take to bring to a really productive collaboration between artists and scientists.
Thank you. I think that was really enlightening and it was inspirational. Your personal experience also reflects the common experience that I think a lot of people working in science art, artists and curator experience. And so thank you again for your time. I know you are very busy and really appreciate that you made the time.
Thank you, Laura. Please keep in touch with all your news.
Sure. Thank you. And keep safe and keep doing the good work.
Thank you.